Hi, I'm Scott the Miniature Maniac, and today we're finishing up this witch. What up, Mini family? Welcome back to the Homecoming series. If you're not familiar with this series, back up a couple episodes so you can start off on the right foot. Last time we met, we had primed the witch, and I was not really happy with it. It revealed a lot of problems with our epoxy sculpt work. So on this video, we're going to start by shaving down some of that epoxy sculpt and smoothing it out. I also am removing the hair for a second time to redo it. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I know it can't be what we did in the last video. It looks far too amateur. So let's look at some 32mm scale miniature hair. The strands are actually quite thick, so this kind of gave me an idea. Start with the traditional snake shape we all know and love, but taper one side. Then cut the snake in half so you have a triangle shape, sort of. Then attach the wider end of the triangle to the model and sculpt the thinner part like it's floating. Is this to scale? No, but it does look fine. And it's the best attempt I've done yet. It's also worth noting that I picked up some firm color shapers, and they're a lot more helpful than the softer ones that I had. Also worth mentioning is that you may think all color shapers that are black are firm and gray is soft and white is even softer, but that's actually not true. I bought some cheapo black firm color shapers on eBay and they were not firm at all. I had to buy them in store to make sure they were actually firm. So I did a few of these tendrils and I'm actually pretty excited about the results that I'm getting. Honestly, struggling with this hair was absolutely killing my drive to paint this model, and I kind of needed to figure this out, and that really gave me the fuel I needed to kind of keep on going. Alright, let's get to painting this miniature. I started with some base coats. The dress I base coated with my mid-tone, a tan color with the intention of it being white eventually. I then base coated the skin with a deep red color with the intention of that being the maximum shadow. I wanted to go for a warm skin tone to differentiate it from the dress. I wanted her to be pale eventually, but I didn't want it to look like she was dead. So I started with a warmer tone. I then started to apply my shadows and highlights. If you've seen my video called How to Highlight Almost Everything, which is linked in the top right hand corner right now, you'll understand what I'm doing here. If I was making sense in the video, that is. The only thing that's different this time around is that instead of the light source being above, it's under the witch. I'm painting this model upside down essentially. I am pretending that the sun is below my character instead of above. Let's shout out some people who definitely understand everything I say all the time, my patrons. In this video we're shouting out Max Asklander, Alaraxic, Jindra Holy, Jay McKean, Maxter085, Tony Cossins, Ralph Hope, Ben Manuchek, Dave Fox, Jonathan Watson, Will Von Doom, Russell Aldridge, Jake Belmonte, Sebastian King, John McShane, Jay Anderson, Moxis, Steen Mohlberg, Charles Brandon, 1st Duke of the Suffolk, 1st Viscount LaSalle. Whoa. Raidu, John Macaluso, Dwayne Bell, Chad Christian, Justin Balargian, Jesse Newhouse, Ben Layton, Hendrick, Sydney Henziel, Mike Hunt, and Hyper Mega Muffin. These are my new patrons for the previous month, and I couldn't be more gracious to be receiving your support in this way. So thank you guys so very much. And also to all my current patrons as well. You guys are awesome. It is a huge honor to be able to say that the largest income stream that I have as a content creator is via Patreon. To me, that says that my content, albeit goofy and silly at times, is resonating with people, and that it really is a great honor and a great feeling, so thank you for that. If you're curious about Patreon and what it actually is, it's a monthly subscription service that gets you access to rewards month after month. One of the best ones, in my opinion, is the $2 one, which gets you access to the Discord. And on the Discord, what we do is a fun painting competition thing where every time you paint something, you get points for it, and there are opportunities to get bonus points like following a quarterly theme. Like this month, it's painting a bust. Last month, it was painting a squad of dudes, and that gets you bonus points. And at the end of the year, all the points turned into raffle tickets to earn fun things like whole paint ranges, a paintbrush, or an Age of Sigmar starter set, so on and so forth. So if you're interested in kind of checking out those rewards and what they are, you can check out the link in the video description. Again, thank you to all my new patrons and all my current patrons. You guys are awesome, and you make this possibly becoming a full-time job a total reality. So thank you for that so very much. All right. Let's get back to painting this witch. Wow, I'm still highlighting the stress, huh? This was a really time-consuming part because I kept adjusting the highlights to make them look like they were in the correct location. For the highlights, I was using an yellowy off-white tone, and for the shadows, I was using a purpley dark gray with the hopes that I would not only get light contrast, but also color contrast as well. I applied many highlights, working my way up to white in order to avoid the chalkiness, which I think comes from trying to jump the gun too fast on your highlights and go too fast to white. Once I got the dress 85% done, I started to work on the skin. I started with a basic flesh color and again began to light her up like she was upside down, the sun being below her. This was quite interesting. Essentially, I was highlighting all the parts I normally keep dark on the face and vice versa for the shading. At a certain point, I was messing up the skin pretty badly. I was getting brush strokes and texture everywhere, so I decided to strip the mini with some isopropyl and a Miniac cotton swab with a sharper tip. I painted on some more primer and took another attempt at the flesh. But it was still kind of looking bad, which was probably due to the fact that my stripping method was too wussy, because I was scared to strip paint off of the dress. I decided at this point I needed to make some drastic steps. I suspended her upside down in an ultrasonic cleaner and some power clean to take care of the rest of the upper body. I was so frantic at this point, I wasn't even shooting video. I wouldn't recommend doing what I did here if you want to strip a portion of the miniature, especially if it's like an important one, like a competition entry. I kind of stripped off more paint than I wanted to. Next, I didn't even prime it this time. I just started airbrushing a dark brown shadow color. I figured the less layers I applied, the less chance I had of obscuring detail. I then airbrushed on the first light from below to guide me as to where to put the highlights and shadows. I then began to refine the skin tone, and most importantly the face, which is so very wicked looking. This refinement looks like increasing the contrast and giving her eyes a pink glow to match the fire. The implication I was going for here was that her evil magic was causing the fire to change the color, so I wanted them to be linked in some way to kind of drive that narrative. I then had a stroke of genius. I thought I should add whip marks to the underside of her arms and blood dripping down her back like she was recently whipped. Yet she's still happy. I used a very thin brush and some dark red paint to do some very tiny slash marks like the whip wrapped around the underside of her arm. This was also a great idea because it kind of drew attention away from the fact that maybe my epoxy sculpt and blending work wasn't absolutely perfect. I kind of got mentally stuck when I was done with this. I had a lot of smaller details left, so I just kind of jumped on one to keep the ball rolling. I started to paint the cross, wet blending in shadows and highlights based on the position of the three fires. I then washed it with an acrylic brown wash and dry brushed it to bring out some of the scratches that I had made in the styrene. I then worked on the rope, which was a very basic base coat in a saturated yellow, a wash in a brown acrylic wash, and then a highlight with the same base tone mixed with an off-white color. And then it was finally time, to attach the witch to her base and kind of see the fruits of my efforts finally put together. So I did that. I snapped a picture. I sent it to John, and John was like, "You gonna add that pink glow to the witch?" And then I was like, let me get a second opinion. So I sent it to my patrons, and they said the same thing. I sent it to Sam Lenz and Tom Ailes, and they all had the same reaction as well. So I had to have a reckoning with myself. I didn't want to add pink glow to the scene. I just didn't think I would like the way that it would turn out. But I'm painting this piece for Crystal Brush, a painting competition, and if adding pink to the scene is going to get me higher scores with the judges and also with the online vote, then I should do it. This piece is not necessarily for me, it's for Crystal Brush. So it took me some time to come to terms with this, but eventually I caved. I didn't film a lot of this, and I'm sorry about that, but I was kind of being a sore loser at this point. I glazed a lot of pink in, and since the highlights were kind of already in the right spots, kind of adding this filter of color did most of the work. Once that was done and about a million tiny adjustments that are very hard to show on camera were done, my 2019 Crystal Brush entry was finally complete. I gotta say, this was quite a ride. I've never taken an idea and then fit a miniature into that idea. Typically, you start with a miniature and that dictates your idea, but this was a different, more difficult approach for me. It's super cool to compare the original crappy concept art I had drawn up for the final piece. It actually looks pretty similar, and I'm happy I got so close. Now that it's done, it's time to sit back at Adepticon and relax and worry all weekend about my piece making Final Cut. The last thing I want to do is do worse than I did last year. Before we end the video, I have an exciting announcement for our Minnesotan miniature painters. Aaron Lovejoy of Miniature Mentor fame is making his way out to Osseo, Minnesota to teach a class on June 29th about speed painting your army, which is an incredibly applicable topic for a lot of us. Aaron is a great miniature painter with a lot of wisdom to share on the topic. I've actually interviewed him in the past on this channel. He's a super fun guy. The cutoff date for the class is the end of April, so if you're interested in signing up, do it before then. All the information for the class is linked in the description below. All right, that's it about Aaron. Sign up for his class. It's going to be great. Let's wrap up the video. Thanks for checking out this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you want to check out more videos like this, as I said in the beginning of the video, this video is part of a series where I talk about all the pedantic things that I address and care about when preparing an entry for a competition like Crystal Brush. There'll be one more video in this series about everything that I learned from Crystal Brush and whether or not I placed in my category and the results of all that stuff. Thanks for checking out this video, guys. If you want to support the channel, you can find links in the description that will enable you to do that. As aforementioned, a Patreon campaign with a bunch of fun rewards, an Amazon shopping link that you can use while shopping on Amazon, and I think that's it. Subscribe or die! And most importantly, don't forget to pay more money! Pay more money!